Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. You know, sometimes there's a card in a set that's just an obvious boogeyman. I think that Omnath makes a great final boss to cap off Mother of Machine Week because it's the single card that I've gotten the most questions about. In fact, I bet there's some people out there who couldn't even tell what question this episode would be about based on the thumbnail because that just didn't narrow it down enough. So let's take a look at exactly how this card's abilities work. First, let's say that Amy has got some mana with Omnath's second ability and it became black due to its first ability. If she used that mana to cast a creature spell, would that let her draw a card with Inga and Essica's ability? So to answer this question, we need to know one very important fact about how Omnath's ability works. The only thing that changes about the mana is its color. Everything else stays exactly the same. There's no CR citation backing me up here, so what am I basing this on? In general, Magic cards are very literal. They say exactly what they do, and they do exactly what they say. Sometimes there's some rule that might muddle this up a little, but in general, it's a good guiding principle to use in your rulings. So the only thing that's different about the mana is its color, because that's the only thing that the ability says it changes. This means that the mana's source is still Omnath. Omnath is a creature, so that means that Amy would get to draw a card. Using this same principle allows us to answer a few other questions about how Omnath works. Since only the color of the mana changes, the source stays exactly the same, but any riders or permissions on that mana also remain. So if you had some mana from a creature that you got with Inga and Essica's first ability, and then you let that mana become black, you could still only spend that mana on a creature spell. Or if you had a Beside You Who Shelters All and you let that mana become black, then whatever instant or sorcery that you spent that mana on would still be uncounterable. Actually, that's pretty cool, because it means you could use that trick to cast an uncounterable Fatal Push or the like, which is something you wouldn't normally be able to do. Another fun fact is that snow is not a color. It's just a property that the mana has based on its source. Colorless also isn't a color, but I suppose it's a little bit more obvious that that wouldn't work with anything Omnath is trying to do. So if there was a card like this, then you could not reveal it, because it doesn't have 3 colored mana in its mana cost. And you would not be able to use Omnath's ability to add snow mana to your mana pool even if you're revealing a snow card or a card that has some snow mana in its mana cost. On the other hand, if you were to tap a snow-covered island for mana and let that mana become black, then the source of that mana is still a snowland, so that means you would be able to use that mana to pay for snow mana in costs of spells or abilities. A couple of other miscellaneous notes to close things off here. Notice that Omnath requires that the card needs to have 3 colored mana symbols in its mana cost. That means that something like a John Tackblade wouldn't cut it. It only has 2 mana symbols, even though it is 3 colors. Finally, the mana that you add has to be in some combination of the card you reveal's colors. Usually that's pretty trivial because the colors of the card are generally determined by the mana cost, but not always. A Painter's Servant might allow you to add an unexpected color, while a Devoid card would not let you add any mana at all. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.